Good afternoon. This is a special coverage of the coronavirus crisis using the combined forces of News 5 and Signal TV's 1 News, Radio 5 and 1PH. The Presidential Anti-Corruption Commission or PACC wants the National Bureau of Investigation to go after Vice President Leni Robredo amid the latter's efforts to help those affected by the enhanced community quarantine. In a statement, PACC Commissioner Manuelito Luna questions Robredo's actions that, quote, compete with or calculated to undermine the national government's efforts. He insists the Office of the Vice President is barred from competing with key government agencies like the Health Department and the DSWD, among others. The PACC official is referring to Robredo's free shuttle service and dormitories for health workers, as well as donation of personal protective equipment to frontliners. Human rights lawyer Diokno revealed that the NBI is now going after ordinary citizens on social media who are airing sentiments over the government's response to COVID-19. Diokno said that he took a case of a netizen summoned by the NBI. Diokno believes that NBI's action is inhumane. The lawyer made the revelation after Pasig Mayor Vico Soto was summoned to explain his possible violation of the Bayanihan to Heal as One Act. He then advised authorities to focus on combating the virus and not the people's sentiments. Hindi na lang mga palengke at supermarkets ang dinadayo ngayong panahon ng COVID-19. Biglang dami rin kasi ang mga pumupunta sa money remittance centers. Para sa iba pang detalye, nagbabalita live mula sa Pasig si Shaila Francisco. Shaila.
Jess, mas mahaba na nga ang pila sa mga remittance center ngayon, especially kaninang umaga. Kumpara ng mga nakarang linggo, karamihan sa kanila kumukuha ng pera na pinadala ng kanilang mga kamag-anak. Ayon sa mga nakausap natin, kahit anong pagtitipid sa pera, naubos na ito ngayong linggo. Wala na kasing pumapasok na pera dahil tigil operasyon ang ilang kumpanya. Kaya naman sa mga padala na lang sila ng mga kaanak umaasa. May ilan din tayong nakausap na sila naman ang nagpapadala ng pera sa mga kaanak na apektado rin ng enhanced community quarantine. Nakiusap na raw sa kanila ang mga kamag-anak lalo't madalang ang dating ng relief packs mula sa kanilang lokal na pamahalaan. Ayon sa isang tagapamahala ng Money Remittance Center, pinilit nilang magbukas dahil sa pagdami ng mga customer. Marami raw kasing maliliit na pera padala na nagsara dahil kinapos ang pondo. Dahil naman sa pagdami ng customer sa isang remittance center sa Pasig, hindi na napatupad ang social o physical distancing sa lugar at bahagyang nagkagulo sa pila. Kaya naman ang mga tauhan na ng lokal na pamahalaan ang nanghimasok para sundin ito ng customer. Sabi nila, ipasasara nila ang remittance center kung hindi susunod ang mga customer. Iniingatan lang raw nila ang mga customer para di mahawa sa sakit. Jess, sabi nga kanina, balak nila maglagay ng mga tao rin dito sa remittance center para magmando. Abiso naman ng ilang mga pera padala na siguraduhin ng mga customer na bukas yung pagdadala na branch, lalo't di na mababawi yung transaksyon. Samantala, naglabas na ang Department of Finance ang implementing rules and regulations ukol sa bayanihan na Heal as One Act pagdating doon sa mga 30-day extension sa pagbabayad ng utang. Kasama dyan yung pagbabayad sa mga utang sa mga pawn shop at iba pang lending association o institution. Jess?
Alright, maraming salamat, Shaila Francisco. The production of much-needed face shields and other personal protective equipment gets a boost, courtesy of the Department of Science and Technology. The DOST says it can produce 40 to 50 face shields daily via imported 3D printers. The agency expects to produce as much as 6,000 shields in the coming days once they start using injection molding in their Bicutan and Laguna facilities. Among the first health facilities to receive help from the DOST are the Philippine General Hospital and the Philippine Army General Hospital. The department says more 3D printers are arriving in May.
Alam naman natin siguro yung ongoing problem natin, no? COVID-19 na yan. And DOST would like really to contribute or be a part of the solution to this problem, yung pandemic natin, COVID-19. And isa doon sa mga interventions na gusto ng DOST magkaroon ng contribution ay yung ma-protect yung ating mga frontliners, no? Especially the medical frontliners natin.
We'll continue the discussion over at 1 News, 1PH and Radio 5. For now, that's the latest on the coronavirus crisis. For News 5, I'm Jess De Los Santos. We are One News.
To you live on the markets and the economy from my home in Muntinlupa. Here's what you need to know today. So first of all, the Philippines is working to ease bottlenecks at all points in the supply chain. That's to keep grocery shelves from going empty. This is according to Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles. Now this comes amid a lot of news that there is a backlog that's been happening at the Manila International Port. They're already at close to 98% capacity there, and that can be closed in 6 to 8 days. The government is now also considering a gradual lifting of the ECQ. That's to allow some manufacturing firms to resume their production. This is very helpful given, we had reported yesterday that the Philippines posted a contraction in the manufacturing space. That's the lowest we've seen since this index came out. And we're actually the second worst performer in March in the entire ASEAN region when it comes to manufacturing. And finally, adding to the woes, more bad news. Unfortunately, today, markets retreated below 5,400. We are now trading at 5342.31. This is, of course, our bellwether Philippine Stock Exchange Index. This is down 1 2/10%. We mirrored Wall Street overnight. That did not perform very well, and this amid a very mixed Asian trading picture. Let's kick off on the economic front. We've got, as I mentioned, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles saying the Philippines is now working on easing the bottlenecks at all points in the supply chain. And this, of course, is to help us be able to procure basic goods na kailangan natin, all of the grocery shelves, so making sure that these grocery shelves are not empty. And another thing is they also need to convince not just to have supply, but also these groceries, these wet markets, drugstores, to be able to operate for 12 hours, which is very difficult right now given this skeletal staff. And as I mentioned, there was already all of this talk since yesterday na yung port natin sa Manila International Port is already over congested now with orders. They're not being picked up. Syempre, all of the mga negosyo nagsasarado, so hindi nila makuha yung mga ino-order nila. So that's already at 98% utilization. Now, if the shipping containers are not moved, this is a problem. Syempre, you cannot get all of these things. Right now, there are 14 ships. They're awaiting for berths and 25 vessels expected to arrive this week. This is according to Philippine Ports General Manager. He is Jay Santiago. So usually, pag normal period, companies retrieve around 4,000 containers per day from the port. And right now, they're only retrieving 1,600. So it's a dramatic decrease. And Carlo Nograles, CABSEC, is saying that all cargo must flow freely, unhampered, and unimpeded. So right now, what is the government doing? They're trying to, lessen the checkpoints, and also the logistics crew, they're not they don't need to undergo the usual 14-day quarantine. Now, on the back of this news, you've got one of the biggest, or actually the biggest port operator we have, and it's a listed company, of course, Enrique Razon's ICTSI. Now, amid all of this news na baka mag-close ang ports, that has seen already a slump, not to mention it's very, very related to the manufacturing and supply chain industries, which are now halted. And today, we've seen them slumping even further. Those shares for ICTSI falling 6.5%, extending its losses down already 57% since January. So just in 2020, whoever invested in ICTSI has lost close to 60% of that value. Now, speaking of ways to ease bottlenecks, you've got naman on the Department of Trade and Industry front, Secretary Mon Lopez saying that the lifting of the ECQ will be done in a gradual way. So he mentioned the possible slow resuming of manufacturing and mall operations, but of course this is all still to be finalized, and this comes amid business leaders like Jaime Augusto Zobel de Ayala of the Ayala Corporation, Lance Gokongwei as well of JG Summit and Cebu Pacific, they met with them and they proposed what they call a modified community quarantine, which sana naman for them removes the checkpoints na and resumes manufacturing operations so that businesses can continue. You've got the TTI also allowing some additional businesses like in the food and essential products to operate. Some will be 50% capacity, but some like the medical producers or medical related equipment producers could actually manufacture at full capacity. Now back to the manufacturing index, I'd already reported this yesterday. That was slumping on March for the Philippines, and this was the second worst performer. The only one that performed worse than us was actually Singapore. You've got UBP's Carlo Asuncion saying that 73% of the country's economic activities is already in Luzon, and the lockdown is hurting more than half the economy. Now he said that implementing a modified community quarantine where moving will be eased partially along with more supply chain flow. Now the government has also ordered all lenders to give a 30-day grace period, and another thing the government is doing is helping the loan payments be extended right now without incurring any charges or interest rates. Now let's move on to markets. As I mentioned, the PSEI has reversed course. It ended in the red on Thursday. You're going to be seeing that down by 1 2/10%, 5342.31. Yesterday we had already seen a very good recovery. What Luis Limlingan of Regina Cap said, a possible V-shaped recovery here, but that seems not to be happening this Thursday. Yesterday, we even saw net foreign selling again, so foreigners exiting for 13th straight day. And this performance, let's say, follows what happened in the US. You've got all of these bad news na naman happening offshore. For instance, more deaths in Spain and in Italy related to the COVID-19, but also an extension of the lockdowns in Germany, for example. So futures, however, for the US markets are pointing towards a recovery. So hoping for the best, maybe towards the end of the week, we may actually see some changes. But as it stands now, if you take a look at our sectors, not performing very well. Services, the worst hit right now, that's down by more than 4%. Financials as well, close to that amount. So mostly them, except properties, that was a shining star today. That was up by 3.5%. So despite the fact that the rest of the bourse slid, property players in the green. And finally, just some earnings to break. I want to discuss Century Pacific Foods, which did release their 2019 earnings. You've got COL Financial, COL Financial, saying this was one of their biggest picks. So recall Century Pacific does, the tuna, Argentina corned beef, very strong brands here. And they said that their profits in 2019 surged 11%, so that's at 3.1 billion pesos. That's on the back of revenues up 7% to 40.6 billion pesos. Now, 77% of all of their sales come from the brands. So mainly these, Century Tuna, corned beef brands, but they've also got some commodities there. The commodities business, so just the ingredients and not the finished product, was actually down by 6%, but the branded business continuing strong, that was up double digits by 12%. Now, their CFO, Oscar Pobre, says that in these challenging times, they recognize they have such a critical role to play. They need to feed the people, and they need to make their products available to the ones who need it the most. And they actually, apart from just continuing operations, they've also given announced that they're going to be giving 1 million food packs to the public. That's to help cope with all of this lockdown. Now, you've got Century Pacific Foods actually up by 1.5%, so bucking the sell-off of the bourse and performing pretty well there. That's after they had released their 2019 figures. And speaking of ending with good news, just other stuff that corporates are doing right now. In the spirit of bayanihan and how everyone can help, you've got Makati Medical Center piloting a phone teleconsultation service. So what this does is it allows their doctors to give you healthcare consultations via the phone, and you can pay. So this is in partnership with PayMaya. You could pay via the PayMaya app. Now, other corporates doing some good here, you've got Ayala Corp, and together with EEI and billionaire Enrique Razon's unit, Prime Metro, they will help convert 2 convention centers and also a sports complex into quarantine facilities. So that will actually have a total capacity of 1,950 beds. So all hands on deck, a lot of corporates chipping in and doing what they can to solve this crisis, that despite, of course, still very, very jittery markets. And that's a look into the business day this April 2nd, 2020. I'm Danny Laurel, and we are One News.